Hi, today we're going to take a look at the separation of powers doctrine in California. What is the separation of powers and what does it mean? Essentially, the powers of government are provided to three separate and distinct but co-equal branches of government in order to operate the state government. These powers are set forth in the California Constitution and are granted to the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of state government. The separation of powers doctrine essentially provides that those who exercise power in one branch of government cannot exercise the powers of the other two branches of government. In the same way, the US Constitution provides, not explicitly with the separation of powers, but the US Supreme Court has made that determination. On the other hand, the California Constitution does provide an explicit separation of powers doctrine. It's set forth in Article 3, Section 3, and it provides the following. The powers of state government are legislative, executive, and judicial. Persons charged with the exercise of one power may not exercise either of the others except as permitted by this Constitution. In addition, the three articles of the state constitution dealing with the three branches of state government establish the roles of the three branches, similar to at the federal level. For example, Article 4, Section 1 of the California Constitution provides the legislative power of the state is vested in the California legislature, which consists of the Senate and Assembly, but the people reserve to themselves the powers of initiative and referendum. Next article is Article 5, and in Article 5, Section 1, it provides the supreme executive power of this state is vested in the governor. The governor shall see that the law is faithfully executed. And not surprisingly, in the next article, Article 6, Section 1, it provides the judicial power of this state is vested in the Supreme Court, the courts of appeal, and superior courts, all of which are courts of record. So as a result, in the California Constitution, the three branches of state government are clearly established and their roles are specified clearly. Hence, the separation of powers can be readily ascertained in most instances. But the three branches sometimes operate in a manner that may overlap another branch's role in government. So essentially, the separation of powers is a legal doctrine referring to this division of governmental responsibility as set forth in the state constitution for the distinct role of each branch of government. It also limits each branch from exercising directly the main functions of the other two branches of state government. It essentially is providing the system of checks and balances so that no branch has total control over state government. Now, despite the separation of powers of government, in reality, there is some overlap, as I mentioned, because each branch does provide that check and balance. For example, in the legislative process, while the legislature writes and passes the bills, the governor can sign or veto those bills. And of course, once enacted, the courts can validate or invalidate those laws enacted by the other two branches of government. In addition, while the courts generally interpret the laws, the executive branch, through its administrative agencies, will also interpret the laws and how they enforce them. And they'll also engage in quasi-legislative activity, which is their method of adopting regulations to implement the statutes exercised or enacted by the legislature. And so when a state agency enforces the statute or gives meaning to the law through its adoption of regulations, it partially overlaps either the judicial branch's jurisdiction or the legislative branch. So while there are three separate and co-equal branches of government, the reality is that several of them do exercise powers granted at least partially to the others.